Amen.
Start over.
Good morning.
Yeah. Do the whole thing.
So good morning.
The talk title today is God, what's faith got to do with it? So what is this thing we call faith? And how in the world does it show up in our lives? Let's take a moment this morning to explore what we've learned along the way. And we're going to also get to visit some of our own stories. I'm going to share a few with you, and I invite after the service for you to share some of your own if you're so inclined. One of the tools that I have had along the way is to be able to connect with others along this journey. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So who remembers a television show called Candid Camera?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Alan Funt, remember he was the one who started the program many years ago. And the show was operating on the premise that if you dress up an insane idea with a little bit of legitimacy, anyone will believe it regardless of their education or their background. You know, we've had that experience in our own lives, I would venture to say. So one day, what did he do? He put up a sign along a major highway at the entrance to the state of Delaware that said, "Delaware closed." So the people were just stepping on their brakes, pulling over, doing all kinds of things in the process of seeing the sign. And they would ask him, you know, what's the deal with the sign? And he would just point and say, read the sign. Read the sign. So what is that about in our lives? And they would even ask, well, you know, when do you think it's going to reopen? What were they thinking? What were they thinking? You see, it looked like an official sign. He was well dressed. He looked like he was a representative that could speak the truth for them. And he was agreeing with the sign. Wow. So too often, friends, we believe what we see without question. Without question. Because we have heard it from an authority. We have heard it from a dear friend, or maybe it was on our Facebook feed.
Probably.
So what we're going to discuss today is how we allow our faith to move in and through us. So we've all done it. We've ignored our God gut. I like that term. A friend of mine is the one who taught it to me. That sweet intuition that is ours. And so we ask the question, how do we know if it's true? How do we know if what we are experiencing is true? So I'll give you a story. I was recently told by a very reliable source that a very dear friend of mine was moving out of town to begin doing some work in another state. And she loves the work she's doing here in this part of the world. Her husband's job is here. All of these things are important to her. And what happened? She's also got family in the other state. So there was this piece of me that said, this just doesn't fit. So what did I do? I went to the source and I asked. I asked her, I said, tell me, what is behind this information that someone has shared with me? And she was very, very appreciative of the fact. She said, what has happened is I mentioned this to one person, the next thing I know, the whole church is coming to me. Churches don't ever have a grapevine. So friends, I offer that as an opportunity and a little bit of a background story to notice when we don't feel alignment, when we don't feel that sense of this is really resonating, this is rock solid truth, ask. That's simply what she did and what I did. And she said, as it turns out, what happened was she got to share her vision with me. She has this amazing vision for a wonderful spiritual retreat center of an entire city block in another city. And what I said was, thank you. Thank you for not only trusting me with that vision, but for allowing me to hold it sacred with you. Because at the time when she really does feel called to go, she will be able to do so with effortless ease. So let's ask this question. And it's one that I think we've all asked at one point in time in our lives. Is God real? And or who or which or how is God in our lives? We can ask so many different ways. You see, when I was a child, I thought of God as this grandfather with a long flowing beard and this beautiful white hair who floated benevolently above the masses, imparting kindness to everyone. And what I would like to say is that brings that sense of sweet comfort when we have an image of God. But as we grow older, that image begins to evolve. And we'll talk about how that evolution is part of our conscious spiritual awakening in the world. Many years ago, I officiated a memorial service for a young man in his mid-30s. He died very unexpectedly. And when I interviewed his mom and his aunt, they were very adamant that they needed someone to do the service, to officiate the service, who would not use the word God at any time. And I asked them some more questions. I said, tell me about his life. And they said he lived by the golden rule. That was what was important to him. He lived by that conscious awareness of God in his life. And in so doing, he embraced the core concept of God, love. He loved his son. He loved his work. He worked for Dell. And he had many, many friends over there. So I agreed. And what I did during that service was to say that he was practicing the teachings of the great masters through that love that he embodied and he expressed in the world. God didn't have to be the overarching theme of this man's life. And we got to see through another lens just how much he was loved. Because over 100 of his co-workers showed up that day. And it was in the middle of the afternoon on a work day at Dell. So what I know to be true is that this young man was not unlike me at one time. I grew up in the Presbyterian church, and as a child and a teen, I could recite the Apostles' Creed and all of the catechism, and I taught Sunday school, and I played the organ. So friends, I was wholly and completely churched. And what I know is that by the time I was 15, I wanted to know more. I had questions, so I began to read the Masters of the Far East and the teachings of the great shamans. Black Elk, Carlos Castaneda, John Lilly Ramdas, Richard Bach, Paulo Coelho, Paramahansa Yogananda, Herman Hesse, Khalil Gibran, Hafiz, Rumi, the list goes on and on of all of the teachers that I have had through their legacies and through their written word. I was the firstborn. I was an overachiever, a hero child who cooked and cleaned for my family of 4. I took advanced placement courses only in school, and I helped my younger brother with his homework. I babysat for the neighbors. I sewed all my own clothes, practiced that organ every day, and I still managed to squeeze in time for that reading because it was so important to me. And I knew there was something else out there, something else I wanted to learn. When I moved away from home at 17, I had come to a decision. Jesus was a cool dude. Yeah, that's what I felt at that time. And the notion that God created everything and therefore ruled all, I actually at one time believed that was a way to control the masses. So, I wasn't buying it, and I referred to myself at that time as a questioner, someone who was exploring, someone who was looking beyond that which was in front of me. It was a short while later I began to tip my toe into the teachings of unity. A coworker introduced me to unity back in the 70s. And I was privileged to be gifted his entire unity library after he passed. So that collection of books has allowed me to glean wisdom over the years whenever I'm willing to be open to receive it. Over time, I learned that this breaking away from things and finding one's own path is normal. We all, at some level or another, question and go through this process, and what happens in that is that we find a deeper strength in so doing. a deeper sense of connection. So agnostic, atheist, or believer, many of us have traveled this path of exploration. And what I know is that we often, once we've decided, we surround ourselves with others like us. But the real challenge comes when we find ourselves in the company of someone who believes a little bit different. I spent 34 years working for the federal government. In 1985, I met Madeline Murray O'Hare. Talk about a shift in consciousness. Now, for those of you who don't know, Madeline Murray O'Hare was the woman who was behind banning prayer in schools and was successful in doing that in 1963. In addition to that, she founded the American Atheist Movement that same year. She was president of that organization until 1986 when her son John took over. And what I learned when I met with her in her home office in 1985 is that she was an intelligent woman. She was firmly rooted in her beliefs, and she had this little habit of using the word God in conversation. I found it kind of interesting, and after the 7th or 8th time that she said God, I just took the bait, and I said, can you tell me what this is all about? I hear you using God, but yet I know you're an atheist. And she said, with a smile, my God doesn't have a capital G. My God does not have a capital G. So, when I met with her, I did not know what to expect, and what I found out is that I didn't have to agree with her to respect the fact that she had her own beliefs. And this is what we have occur whenever we're with others who don't necessarily believe as we do. We can honor them, we can listen to them, but we don't have to necessarily take them on. But the catalyst that I got from that meeting was to look at my own beliefs a little bit more deeply. It was a really good experience. So as those periodic reflections wove their way through my life, I found that adage we've all heard, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And through the years, I have met some amazing people, including Father Thomas Keating. What he has shared about the evolution of consciousness is that God is consistently moving the human race to the next stage of consciousness beyond the rational, technological, dominating worldview, recognizing the truth there is only one self, ultimately. And this is God manifesting in us. In us, friends. And ours is to look for that truth, whatever that truth is to us. The 4th century Greek philosopher Socrates is known for having said, a life, or rather, the unexamined life is not worth living. And we know that that process that he used, the Socratic method of revealing that which was true for him, is something that we can choose if we wish to today. So we know that an understanding of what has value to each of us is foundational to that examination. So let's just take a moment to take a look at that. One of the things that I know that has value to me are the 5 principles of unity. The first of which is there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good omnipotence. And what I love about that principle is that it has a very specific meaning to each of us. My concept of God is not going to be identical to everyone else's in the room. And that's wonderful, because we are each divinely made, unique expressions of God, made in the image and likeness of God, as we read in Genesis. And knowing that truth, we get to have this opportunity to manifest that beautiful truth of who we are as that individual, bright and brilliant light. No one else can be the God that each of us is. Only we can do that. So, what about that evolving concept that I mentioned earlier, that evolution of consciousness with regard to God, and the ability to see differently throughout our lives. So that childhood God I talked about earlier, nice guy in the sky. Well, while I don't think of God as separate from me or out there, or white or male, I still feel the presence of loving kindness. And that presence continues to bring me comfort today. So how do you know God? How do you see God in your life? And if you're someone who seeks evidence, I'll give you a couple of examples. Perhaps you have seen a glorious sunset that gave you pause to just sit and bask in its presence. Or perhaps you have felt the fingers of a tiny infant wrap around your pinky and marveled at the beauty of life. Where is God in these experiences, friends? We know that God is exactly where we believe God to be, and this is our third unity principle. Thoughts held in mind and heart produce after their kind. And when we realize that, we're holding something in our consciousness about which we feel enthusiasm. We feel a connection. And then we experience that thing because we have that connection with it. When we hold in our mind and heart that God is good, the one presence and the one power, then this is what we know to be God. Choosing to do so is a spiritual practice, like prayer and meditation. And we choose over and over again. Seize the moment was our daily word today, and we are seizing the moment of remembering. I brought some rosemary. I've got it at the back of the room, and the reason that I'm mentioning it is rosemary is the herb for memory. So I invite you when you get ready to go to grab some rosemary to help you remember and anchor into that sweet presence of God in each of your lives. Awareness of itself, the awareness of that presence of God rather requires that regular investment. We talk about prayer and meditation, as I mentioned earlier, and that Larry led us so beautifully in a moment ago. But what I do know to be true is that when we allow ourselves to truly invest, it's just like anything else in the world. If we invest our time, talent, and treasure into something, the rewards are absolutely profound. And they will come back over and over again. When we invest our time and our talent and our love into knowing God more deeply, this is that anchoring piece of faith. This is what Jesus said to Peter when he said, upon that rock. Because that is that sense of knowing we have a foundation. Whenever something comes up in our lives, no matter what it is, no matter how difficult it might be, we have that proverbial port in the storm. And we all have things happen in our lives. We've all been through a process of holding Reverend Robert in love and seeing him rightly as whole and healed in that beautiful sense of that we know to be true about who he is and who he has come here to be. When we hold that rock underneath us, when we have the belief and the faith and the wisdom to see beyond appearances, and the hurricanes of our lives feel much more like gentle storms. Yeah. One of my favorite authors is the one that we know of as the teacher of teachers. Emma Curtis Hopkins has a beautiful thing that she says when faced with those storms. This too is good. This too is God. This too is for me. And I demand to see the blessing. Amen. Does anyone ever have those moments when you just want to call up that truth? You want to see it beyond what you think it might be, and you will get to learn a beautiful lesson through that. So she didn't come to that understanding overnight. No. That teacher of teachers, the woman who ordained both Marvel and Charles Fillmore, the one who literally showed up in the world to teach not only them the others had her own stories, had her own healing opportunities. But she knew the truth. She knew that God was good. She knew that whatever was going on was for her. And then she was open and willing and even demanding to see the blessing in the situation. So we each have our own life path, and I'm going to share a few things that I've done along the way that have helped me. And if any of them inspire you, I'm sure many of you already have done them or continuing to do them. As I mentioned earlier, I spoke with others about their journey. I have actually had the privilege of meeting the Dalai Lama, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Father Thomas Keating, Thich Nhat Hanh, and many, many other beautiful leaders over the years. And for those I didn't read, as I've already mentioned, I read what they had to share. And I heard their messages through my own sacred heart. The second thing that I've done along the way is to write about the important questions in my life using a tool we call journaling. Now, anyone here have any aversion to picking up a pen and paper? Let me just share this. When we put it down on paper, the grammar doesn't count, punctuation doesn't count, spelling doesn't count. It's about getting it out into the physical world and seeing it more clearly. That's the basic goal of journaling. And then I took God walks. It's something we teach our kids, and I love doing them. It's the idea of seeing a beautiful something in the distance and approaching it with the idea of God. And what we leave behind are all the electronic devices. We allow ourselves to simply know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is the presence of God. So we can approach a tree and see God in that tree. We can approach a flower and do the same thing. God. And the fourth thing that I did was I asked, what do I do? What is it that is unique to myself, and what is my proverbial rock? Matthew 7:7 tells us, and I love the acronym in here, you'll see that in a minute. The A, ask. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. The S, seek, and you shall find. The K, knock, and the door will be open. All we need to do is simply ask. Because the more that we do, the more we get in touch with that God gut, with that indwelling wisdom, the more we know what is truly ours to do in this moment. So we can seize that moment. The fifth thing I did was to write my own credo, my own beliefs. And I encourage you to do something along those lines. It's a beautiful tool. And what happens when we do that is we not only bring it into clarity by putting it on paper, but we allow our own thoughts to settle, and we feel peace whenever we get those things in writing in front of us. So here are a couple of questions that you might consider, and these are the ones I'm currently using with my ongoing practice. What have I done today to invest in my awareness of God? You see, it is an investment. And the second question is, what am I creating today to empower, improve, or enhance my relationship with God? So I invite you to use these questions so that you might inspire your own process. So imagine this one, if you will. As a member of a spiritual community, am I willing to schedule time to focus on my own evolving consciousness and to invest in my own faith? Because when we use those tools, regular meditation, journaling, connecting with others, and simply being grateful, what we're doing is we're not only serving that indwelling presence of the Christ, but we are also serving the evolution of consciousness of precious humanity. All of creation. So it's not a strictly one-way street when we're doing this work. And I'll use the word that Sue used earlier. I'll call it play. Because play is truly what it's about. When we allow ourselves to feel that word play bubbling up, our awareness shifts from worked and have to play and want to. So, I'm going to take a moment to just share a little bit about my own personal credo. And this is how it starts. I still resonate with one part of the teachings of my youth to this day. It is that God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. As I have grown in my belief structure, I have begun to understand the vastness of this concept. I am grateful that the realization continues to unfold like the petals of a lotus. I know there is no place where God is not. And I am remembering through the wisdom of my Sacred Heart just how profound that truth is. God, the mere word spoken from the depth of my soul, evokes a deep and resonant sense of wonder and peace. God, great one divine. This begins to give my human brain a sense of vastness, of allness, of oneness, and of no thingness. It also gives me pause as I open to receive the words to describe the enormity that is God. The limitlessness, the inclusivity, the awe, and the wonder. It is the ever-evolving expansiveness that is without true definition or limit. I surrender. I surrender to the allness. I invite you just to close your eyes for a moment and to know that through our faith, we feel the presence of God in this very room. We know God is here. We know this is good. We give thanks for our ongoing, evolving awareness of the divine. This evolution in consciousness is our personal gift to the enlightenment of all of humanity. We see ourselves being willing to see beyond those closed signs and those perceived limitations. And we know that this awareness is a richer and deeper experience of the divine. We embrace divinity as our birthright. And we hear these words from Hebrews at death. Faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance of what we do not see. We let go. And we breathe. And when you are ready, simply open your eyes. God. However we see God is perfectly right. There is no wrong way. So I invite you to hear these words of faith and hear the opportunity to take a look, to see what's important, to see what you personally believe, and then live that. And so it is.